Hello, guys and gals, and today I figured I would do another podcast-esque video, and because I did one covering the whole Warner Brothers Discovery thing with David Zaslav and the future DC films, and there's another DC property, that I've, been paying attention to, and that is Titans. Now, I know people are kind of 50-50 on Titans. In my opinion, I think it's an okay show. I don't think it's bad. The writing can be bad at sometimes, but like everything else is pretty good about it. And basically the whole point of this video is going to be my wish list for what I hope happens in season 4. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm probably going to sound like a negative Nancy, because essentially what it's going to be is I'm going to be pointing out problems that I've had with all the other seasons, because they seem to have the same problems every season. Like, they just repeat the same things. And I just want to give my thoughts on what I hope they do for this upcoming season to hopefully make it better, because it's one of these properties that, of course, Titans, Teen Titans, whatever you want to call them, it's one of the most popular DC brands out there, and there's so much potential out there, and it's just so frustrating, honestly, to see these writers butcher it pretty much every single time. So that's basically going to be the point of this video, is me giving a point or multiple points on how I think they can improve in season 4. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, up first, we have probably the most obvious one of them all, and that is be a team. It's called Titans. They're supposed to be a team. Have them be a team. This is something that has been an issue pretty much every single season, that they have not felt like a team. And so that is something they really, and I mean really, need to emphasize in season 4. I'm begging, please just be a team for once, because it seems like what has happened in every season is that in the brief moments that they are a team, they're always fighting one another, which, I get it. Teams are going to fight, whatever, but it's kind of annoying when they do it over and over again. And speaking of over and over again, it's also annoying when the team splits up. It's like, there's no emotional impact to it if they don't even feel like a team in the first place. So, and I swear they've done that every season, or I know for sure they've done at least 2 out of the 3 seasons so far, where the team splits up. It's like, why? Because they seem to focus more on certain characters instead of them as a team. Like, they'll focus a lot on, say, like Nightwing for a while / Robin. Then they'll focus on like Hawk and Dove for a little while, and then Starfire for a while. Like, they jump around to these individual characters, but they very rarely ever have them as a team. And to me, and I'm sure to some other people, that is probably the most frustrating thing, is that, come on, we're going to be we're 3 seasons in, we're about to have a 4th season. Just have them be a team. It's not that hard. It's literally the best thing about the Titans lore is them being a team and feeling like a family, but it's just, it hasn't felt like that so far. So to me, that is my biggest thing that I want them to put an emphasis on in this season, is for them to actually be a team the whole season and actually feel like a family, because that's the whole point of Titans, is they're supposed to feel like a family. So, because it's like, I love all the actors who play their characters, and I would just love for them to actually feel like a family. And of course, when it comes to Titans, Nightwing's like the father figure, and Starfire's the mother figure, or if you want to say that. So I would just like to see more moments like that. Next up, we have develop characters. Now, at that point, it kind of sounds broad, but more specifically, I'm talking about develop the characters that you already have, instead of throwing in a bunch of new characters, because that has been a problem, especially in the more recent seasons. Because at least in season 1, I could say, okay, they were trying to focus on, the main 4. Okay, it's like, that was fine. But especially in season 2 and especially season 3, it's like they started focusing way more on all these other characters. And obviously the problem when you have so many characters is that everything starts to get convoluted, and then you don't have as much time to develop the characters that you already have. Or if you do develop them, it just feels so rushed. Because the whole process to Nightwing kind of felt like a rushed thing, and it's just all these things going on with Raven kind of feels rushed. And it's kind of frustrating, because there's so many characters that, especially say Beast Boy and Raven, they just feel like background characters in these recent seasons. They don't really seem like they're doing anything. So I don't know what all characters they're going to introduce in season 4. It looks promising, because it does seem like they're only going to focus on, I think, 5 or 6 of them, because I know it's going to be Nightwing, Starfire, Beast Boy, Raven, and then I think it's Tim Drake and Superboy. I think, I could be wrong, but I think those are the people that they're going to be focusing on in this next season. Because if that's who they're focusing on, then that's fine. That's perfect that they're going back to a smaller number, but it doesn't mean they still won't go, check on these other characters. So if they just focus on those, and I'm sorry if I did throw one in there, because I'm not sure about Superboy, but I know all the other ones they're going to be focusing on. That perfect. Just focus on that team right there. I mean, they can check in on other characters, but just don't make it a big deal, because I just really feel like, as I mentioned earlier, like a character like Beast Boy, I just feel like he has just been a background character pretty much the whole series, except maybe season 1, but definitely season 2 and season 3, he's just felt like a background character. And I just hope he has a way bigger role. And then Raven was basically a no-show in season 3 until towards the end, but I think in that one it was because it was scheduling issues, so it's like, okay, I guess that can make sense then. But yeah, just develop those core characters right there. Don't throw in all these new characters, because of course that was the thing with season 3, because it was set in Gotham, because then you had to introduce all these Batman characters, and it's like, look, I love Batman and his lore to death, I do, but the show is called Titans, so focus on Titans, not the Batman stuff. So just please develop the characters that you already have. Just keep building on their arcs, even though they kind of only have little arcs right now as it is. But, just build Starfire's arc, especially Raven and Beast Boy, because they've just felt like background characters recently. And yeah, just don't throw in all these new characters, because they keep teasing Roy Harper, aka Red Arrow, Speedy, Arsenal, whichever version you want. So it makes me wonder if he might show up this season, but I have no idea. But I just really hope that they focus on that core 5 or 6, I think they're going to be on season 4 or in season 4, and not throw in, 3 or 4 new people to join the team. So that is what I'm hoping for. Next up, we have pacing. Now, what I mean by pacing is I myself don't have a huge problem with the slow burn aspect, because that's kind of what they go with this show. Like, I'm okay with slow burns. My main issue when I'm referring to pacing is how much they drag out the plot. And I know that's kind of what a slow burn is. I get that. But what I'm trying to say is that they just totally drag out this plot that could be done in half the time. So especially with season 3, that was definitely one of my major issues with that, because it felt like that whole storyline could have been done in half the episodes that it took them. It just felt like there was so much unnecessary stuff that they did. It's like, I seriously felt like they could have done that whole story in half the time. So that is what I'm talking about when it comes to pacing, because I don't so much have a problem with it being a slow burn, but if it's actually, if it actually feels like the plot is moving very well. Because season 3, it didn't. It felt like it was going way slower than it could, or than it should have. Because, yeah, they seriously could have finished that whole plot line in half the time. So that is what I'm referring to pacing. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't hurt to have a little more action here and there, and maybe some more light moments and whatnot. I mean, sure, you can sprinkle those in. Because, yeah, once again, I don't have so much of an issue with the slow burn. It's just that when the story can get done in half the time, it just feels like you're just doing way too much that you don't need to do. So that is what I mean by pacing, and I really hope that they change that, because I do think this coming season 4, I think it's 1 or 2 episodes shorter. It's just a few episodes shorter, so hopefully that'll help, and maybe that is why this next season is shorter, but who knows. So that is what I mean by pacing. Now, this next one kind of goes back to the whole thing about being a team, and that is bonding. So it's basically the same thing, but I just wanted to get more specific when talking about a team. And that is that, of course, how they haven't really felt like a team, and they really, and I mean really, need to have some bonding moments in this season, because it just never feels like they have those bonding moments. Because I've been thinking for a long time, I would love it if just like the first episode of season 4, that whole episode, they just spend time going to like a theater, a fair, an arcade or something like that, and just bonding, or even, a restaurant, whatever, and just talking to each other, getting to know each other and playing around and things like that. That is what I would like to see, because that's one of my favorite things about, Titans, when it's either the comics, if it's the cartoons, animated movies, whatever, is that when they have those moments where they're, acting as a family and they're going out and doing these activities, whether they get that slice of pizza, if they go to a fair, whatever. It's like, I want to see a moment like that really bad in this upcoming season, because they just haven't felt like they bonded too much. So I would absolutely love it if they just went to an arcade, a fair, whatever, and just bonded with one another, get to have some more chemistry, get to know each other more, and just make their characters feel better and actually have them feel way more like a team and a family, which I know I kind of pointed that out earlier. But yeah, they just really, and I mean really, need to have some bonding moments, because I referred earlier to like Nightwing feeling like the father figure and Starfire being the mother figure when it comes to all the other media. I would really like to see that. I would love to see Nightwing be the father figure of the group and, really taking care of everybody else. Same thing with Starfire, really taking care of everybody else in the group. So that is something that I also feel like really needs to happen, because once again, they haven't really felt like a team at all 3 seasons in. So of course I hope that changes in season 4. Next up is something that I feel like is kind of a debate, and that is, essentially it's the tone of the show. Now, when I say lighten up, because that's what this whole next section is going to be about, when I say lighten up, I'm not saying the show needs to go to being sunshine and rainbows. I'm not saying that. It definitely does not need to be that. For me, I do feel like they need to lighten up at least a little bit, because I feel like there are times where they take themselves way too seriously, and I'm all for dark and gritty. I love dark and gritty stuff, but it's just that there's times that it could use that lightheartedness, and I really feel like they should do that at least a little bit in season 4. And I know it might be difficult, because I mean the antagonist that they're going against with Brother Blood, that's obviously a very dark villain. So, but it's still, going back to talking about being a team and the bonding moments, like in those moments, have it be lighthearted, just have them have fun, laughing, things like that. Like, that's basically what I'm saying. Just lighten up a little bit, especially when they're hopefully bonding and being a team. Because, yeah, I'm definitely not saying the show needs to change the tone. No, it can still be dark and gritty, but just lighten it up a little bit. That's all I ask. And it would just make the show feel better, make them feel more like a family, and it's just, not take itself too seriously all the time. So that is essentially all I mean by lighten up. Yeah, by no means am I saying they need to change the whole tone of the show. Just please have some lighter moments, especially if they do have bonding moments. Next up, we have one that I definitely personally have a problem with, and that is flashback episodes. Now, if you, throughout the whole season, if you sprinkle in flashbacks here and there, I don't care. That's fine. But for me, I have a huge problem, unless it's the first episode, I have a huge problem when you're, say, 4 or 5 episodes in, and then the next episode, it's a whole flashback episode. Like, the whole thing is a flashback. Because to me, that really, especially if the plot is flowing really well, it just feels like you're getting set back when they dedicate a whole episode, especially say middle of the season, to it being a flashback. Because that just, to me, that really slows things down, and it just sets everything back. So I really hope, because I think every single season has had that one episode where it's a flashback, the whole thing. I think at least 1 or 2 seasons have for sure. And I'm not a fan of that at all. Maybe there's people that are. I'm sure there are people that are, and if there are, then that's great. But in my personal opinion, I'm not a fan of that. If you're going to do flashbacks, please sprinkle them in here and there throughout the season. Or if you are going to dedicate a whole episode to a flashback, then please be the first episode, because then I don't have a problem with it. But if it's, like I said, mid-season or later, I have a huge problem. It's like a massive pet peeve of mine, because I'm somebody who I'm not a huge fan of massive flashbacks. So, but that's just me personally. I'm not sure how everybody else is, but to me, that is a massive pet peeve of mine, especially when you're halfway or more into a TV show or a movie, and then a huge chunk of it is a flashback. I'm just not a fan of that. So I really hope that they do not dedicate a whole episode to being a flashback, because my concern is that since it seems like they've done it with every season, I could definitely see there being an episode, say 6 episodes in, where they're going to dedicate a whole episode to showing Brother Blood's past and give a whole flashback episode to him. I could easily see them doing that. So I don't want them to, but I'm just saying I can definitely see that happening. So in my opinion, just please do not dedicate a whole thing to a flashback episode unless it is the first episode. Next up, we have make each character important. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, about how certain characters have felt like they've just been in the background. And that is mostly referring to Raven and Beast Boy. Those 2 characters, especially in recent seasons, have just felt like they've been in the background the whole time. So this definitely kind of goes back to them, or to me, talking about how, since they're only going to focus on these 5 or 6, that make each one of them important. Now, I mentioned earlier that I believe in season 3, the reason we didn't see Raven too much was because I think the actress had scheduling issues or something like that. So like I said, I can let that fly. Things happen. I can understand that. But I still don't understand why Beast Boy, for example, he still feels like a background character. He doesn't seem like he does much. Because it just seems like they focus, especially in Season 3, they focus way too much on Nightwing, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Nightwing. It's just that they focus way too much on that and the Batman stuff. That was my biggest issue. Once again, I love Batman to death, but the show is called Titans, not Gotham Knights. So please focus on the Titans and not all the Batman stuff. So I would love if, like, let's say, like, each episode is dedicated to a certain character and building on their arc. Like, I would like to see that, because I don't want it to feel like they're all getting their story arcs rushed in one episode. Like, say one episode focuses on Nightwing, the next episode focuses on Starfire and building her character, the next episode Raven builds on her character, etc. But of course, they're still a team, but just try to focus on that one character and building their characters. So yeah, I just mainly want them all to feel important. I don't want it to feel like there's certain characters that feel like they're left behind or in the background, you know? So I'm happy that I think they're only focusing on 5 or 6, because then that can really make it easier to make each of them feel important. And I really hope that is what happens, because I would love to see, you know, Starfire do more, Beast Boy, Raven. I mean, pretty much everybody, because it seems like the only person they really focus on is Nightwing. So don't get me wrong. Once again, I love Nightwing, but it's like, come on, teamwork, make each of them feel important to the team, because each of them can bring something different to the team, and that's what makes them a good team. That's all I'm asking for, is like make them feel like a good team. Each of them have their own purpose, because they each have very unique abilities, to say the least. So they all bring something to the table, and I would just love to have them each feel like they bring something really important to the Titans team. All right, so after sounding like I'm a negative Nancy for probably about 15 minutes or so, and I apologize for that, but I warned you early on that I was probably going to sound like a negative Nancy. Now I kind of want to get to something more positive, and that is like fan service stuff I would like to see. Because I love the Teen Titans, whichever you want to call them. Of course, I always know them as Teen Titans. I'm fortunate enough that my father kept like at least the first 50 issues of the original comics run of the new Teen Titans. And I had an absolute blast reading those, because they are so entertaining. And I can see why they're so popular. And of course, I love the cartoon, because I grew up on the cartoon as well. But especially after reading those comics, it's like, it just made me love the Teen Titans even more. So for me, some fan service stuff I would like to see is, of course, I would love to hear Nightwing, or I guess it really doesn't matter who says it, but I guess preferably Nightwing or Starfire, even though it's typically Dick Grayson who says it, to say Titans go or Titans together, because I don't think we've heard that yet. If I have, I'm sorry I blanked on it, but I don't think we've heard that yet. So of course I would love to hear that, because that's always been the call sign, or whatever you want to say, just, you know, Titans go or whatever. 2 would be, I would love to see Titans Tower, like an actual comic accurate Titans Tower. I know it's kind of easy for the bad guys to target when it's just a giant T tower, but I just think it would be so perfect if, like, the end of season 4, you know, after them hopefully, you know, hypothetically, after them having some awesome bonding moments, them actually feeling like a team the whole season, they just beat the bad guy not too long ago, everything's happy and great, and say they're driving along in that RV or whatever, and Bruce contacts them. Of course, he's not going to show up, but just say he texts them saying that he has a surprise for them, and of course, you know, has a lot of money. So they drive to this location that on the GPS it says that, oh, there's not supposed to be anything there, but then off in the distance you just see Titans Tower. I just think that would be great, and then just see, you know, them take a photo as a team and things like that. I think that would be awesome. I mean, I wouldn't say I'd tear up, but like I would get so excited if they had the actual comic accurate Titans Tower. That would make me so happy if something like that happened. And now, number 3, and I know there's a lot of these folks, and I guess I'm one of them too, is because this is definitely one of the main things about Teen Titans. It's not like it's really super important, but is Nightwing / Starfire being a thing. You know, the whole Decory thing, or whatever you want to call it, because that's what, you know, those people call it. It's like, I want to see that too, because that's always been one of the biggest things about Teen Titans, is Robin / Nightwing and Starfire being together. I would just love for them to have a relationship. And because, you know, when Starfire comes to Earth and like all the other stories, she's, you know, running away from people trying to keep her prisoner. And then when the Titans help her out, then at first she doesn't speak, you Earth language, any Earth language. So, and funny enough, of course, the way she learns language is by kissing. So then she kisses Robin, Nightwing, and that's how she learns. And then that kind of starts her whole thing of liking Dick Grayson. I know she speaks the Earth languages now on the show already, so that part's not going to happen. But I'm just saying, of course, that's how they meet in other medias. But there was a photo of, them shooting a scene or whatever, and it looked like Starfire was liking Dick Grayson or whatever. So, of course, yes, I would love to see Dick Grayson and Starfire be a thing, because that's one of the major things about Teen Titans is them being a thing. And once again, sorry if I sound like a broken record, but it goes back to them feeling like a father and mother like figure, because especially if they're together, then it's like it's really going to feel like that. So I would absolutely love to see that too. So fingers crossed that does happen. But if it does, I just hope it doesn't feel rushed. I hope it feels genuine and authentic, and not just all of a sudden it's like, boom, they're together, So those are the fan service things that I would love to see in Titans Season 4. All right, so in conclusion, once again, I apologize if, for most of this podcast-esque video, if I sounded like a negative Nancy. It's just because the show has been, I'm trying to be super patient with this show, but it's just so frustrating that they seem to make the same mistakes over and over again. So once again, I just wanted to make a few of these points about how I think they can improve in Season 4, and I'm hoping that they do this stuff. And of course, if you have any ideas on how it can improve as well, make sure to let me know. And let me know what you think about all of the statements I said earlier, if you agree or disagree, and what is some fan service stuff that you would love to see. So, am I looking forward to Titans Season 4? I would say yes, I am, because even though I know it's not the greatest show, I still think it's okay, and there is a lot of potential there, and that's what's so frustrating, is there's so much potential, but the writers just screw it up every single time, because that is the weak link of the show, is the writers. So I just really wish they would get better writers. So I'm looking forward to Season 4, because I hope that they just focus on those main 5 or 6 characters, and I'm very curious to see how they do Brother Blood. Of course, Brother Blood is one of the most iconic Teen Titans villains. And then, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a cliffhanger at the end of the season. Maybe they'll tease Terra or something, because they haven't done Terra at all yet, which I'm kind of surprised with that, because we know Deathstroke's not dead, so he could come back, and then they could do the Judas contract for Season 5 if they do get a Season 5. So I wouldn't mind seeing that in live action. So those are my thoughts on Titan Season 4, and that is my wish list. So once again, let me know if you agree or disagree, and let me know how you think the show can improve in the comments below. And of course, as always, I'd love to see you all next time.